So it's saying that we are now live. Welcome along to Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego. I have my cup, but I have a bottle of water because it's absolutely cooking. It's a gorgeous summer's evening. So no, it's. I know that if you are watching this in the UK, you're probably thinking to yourself, "Why the hell am I staring at a YouTube screen when I could be outside and enjoying the sunset?" And I appreciate that. So don't worry, this isn't going to be as long as our usual Sunday show. It is just going to be a bit of a showcase for a show that's coming up in about 2 weeks' time. It's the 1st and 2nd of June. It's taking place in Shrewsbury, and it is Comics Salopia. Just in case you have just wandered across this and you're wondering who the hell I am, my name's Leonard Sultana. I run a website called the Convention Collective and also a blog called An Englishman in San Diego. The two things have really allowed me to get to speak to some really cool and interesting people in the comics and Comic Con world. And one of those people is our guest today. We have ourselves Shane Chebsey, who's joined us. Hello there, Shane. How are you?
Hello, I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for asking.
I know that we've just caught you coming in from work, so you're dishevelled as I am.
Yeah,
I appreciate
yeah,
it. So,
unshaven, tired, yeah, all that stuff.
but then again, your evenings has also been taken up with the organising of this show.
Yeah,
So we could get into all of that. And basically, thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening.
a pleasure.
I think we'll start right at the very beginning of the genesis of Comics Salopia and also your involvement with conventions, because you're the organizer also of the ice shows that take place around the UK. How did Comics Salopia come about as part of that?
Okay, it goes back quite far actually to around 2015. Uh, Myself and Charlie Adlard were having a chat, and we were talking about doing a show in Shrewsbury, which is our hometown. It's an ideal it's an ideal town for a festival because it is a festival town. There are some amazing events here every year, and there are so many good venues, and there are 5 professional comic creators living here. So I thought that's a great foundation, for a show. So we talked about it for a while, and I put on a little show in 2016, but that didn't quite work out the way we wanted because it was joined with a music festival, and that actually went bankrupt. So I ended up putting on a show on my own without the music festival, and that just doesn't work. You're a tent on your own in the middle of a huge quarry field, So, but we did our best. We still got 1,200 people to come along, so it was good. And we had some great guests, Howard Chaykin and people like that. But so I sort of left it for a while in Shrewsbury, and I carried on doing ice, and then Charlie was approached by our mayor at the time, Jane McKenzie, and Jane wanted to do a Comic Con in Shrewsbury. And Charlie very quickly made her realise that a Comic Con is not the way to go. It needs to be a festival. It's a festival town. It needs to be about comics. So thankfully, Charlie got in there and steered her in the right direction, and basically said to her, "You need to talk to Shane. He has experience in putting on comics events. He has lots of contacts." And so the 3 of us then got together, discussed the idea, and about this time, maybe not quite this time last year, a little bit earlier in the year, about April, late April, I think it was last year, we sort of come up with the idea of Comics Salopia, and we've spent the last year, trying to put it together.
Okay, before we go any further, explain the name to me.
Okay. Well, a Salopian is someone who lives in Shropshire,
Right.
or it can also be somebody who lives in Shrewsbury specifically. Salop is the old name for Shropshire. It is also an old name for Shrewsbury. So there's a pub here called the Proud Salopian. The footballers are known as Proud Salopians here. We are Salopians. So the place is Salopia. And it's never been coined as that. It's never been called Salopia. That was something I come up with. I thought it sounded cool. So the idea is that it resonates with local people, with local Salopians, as well as hopefully making people a little bit curious about, well, what does that mean? And hopefully they'll Google it and they'll actually go into the history of the word and find out a little bit more about it and realize it's not just a French prostitute, because I understand that in France it means prostitute or something like that. which is quite funny, especially as we're partially modelling the event on Angoulême. As you can imagine, when we told people in France the name of the show, they just started laughing. You know, what are you laughing at? And then they told me what it meant in French. Oh, right. Oh, well, you're not going to forget it then, are you? And we've got some folks from France coming over as well. So yeah, that's the name behind it. The idea of it just simply being it'll resonate with locals, but it'll also be something different and interesting that other people can read up about.
Excellent. Okay, well that explains that. That's good. So you kind of gave a bit of a tease there as to why you wanted to approach the show as a festival
Yeah,
in the different venues and locations around the town. That, however, is a lot of balls to throw in the air. It's a lot of organising. It's a lot of kind of nuts and bolts to put together instead of having it in one venue and something a little bit controlled for, say, the first year of a show.
yeah.
Why did you decide to go all out and model this on a festival kind of location?
Well, I think it's the only way to go with Shrewsbury where it can work. There are some great venues, and we could have done the whole thing just in the prison or just in the Guild Hall, and we could have charged to get in and just done it as a convention. That could have happened, but I think straight away you're then limiting who can come. And one of the main things about it, one of the most important things about the festival, it was completely inclusive. We wanted as much as it to be as free as possible. So all of the main festival itself is absolutely free. The only thing that's charged are the talks and the VIP stuff. But if you want to meet guests, if you want to go to the trading areas and some of the events as well, some of the workshops, especially a lot of the kids stuff, is absolutely free. So that makes it.
Where's the central hub? Where's, like you say, the and the artist hall? Where's the central hub?
Well, there's no hall. That's the thing. The way I look at it is, you think of a convention and your venue is the room or maybe a couple of rooms, where our venue is the town, basically. So each venue is an area of the town. So it's the equivalent of a room in a convention centre, but it's actually a whole venue. So the Guild Hall is where all the talks are. This is the university building. It's a very new building, purpose built. So it's a fantastic place to do talks and workshops. We've got a kids zone in the library. The main hub, I suppose you could say, is the castle. The Shrewsbury Castle is a beautiful place. It's got a huge grounds. We're going to have artists there. We're going to have traders there. It's going to be a very family orientated place. So all the cosplayers can gather there. We've got face painters, Jedi Knight training, all that sort of stuff. So it's going to have a real fair sort of atmosphere to it. And then you've got the town square, which is going to have a guest. Now, originally it was going to be an independent publishers market, but unfortunately the council put the kibosh on that because they decided to charge all traders an extra £173 license to trade in the square. We tried to stop that happening. Yeah, thanks, council. But that basically killed the idea of an independent publishers market. So we're having to move all those guys who want to trade into other venues where they can trade. It's still really good footfall, so it's not going to do them any harm. So we've had to remodel the square into just a promotional guest zone. So a lot of the guests are going to be in the square. So that's going to be really cool because people can just walk there. It's a free area. It's a public area. It's got a lot of footfall. Up to 5,000 people on a Saturday can pass through there. So it's really good footfall for anyone who is guesting. And we're using the prison as well. That's going to be a 2000 AD zone. Now there is a charge to get in there because the prison charge. They're our partners, but we haven't hired the venue as such. They are our partner, and they usually charge £15 to get in. They're charging £10 to get in just for the festival, and it is a fantastic place to visit. I mean, just go. I mean, people usually pay £15 just to go into the prison. That's when it's not full of 2000 AD artists, and when it's not full of exhibiting artists. So it's still very good value, and there's lots of really cool events going on at the prison as well. So yeah, even though the central hub you could say is the castle, it really is the whole town. The whole town encompasses and it's a very small town, so you can walk around it. Because a lot of people said to me, "Well, what about the distances between the venues? What if I want to go from one thing to another?" They're all within 5-10 minutes walking distance, so It really isn't. It takes longer to walk from one side of Shrewsbury to the other than it is to take from one side of the XL to the other. No, sorry, it takes less time.
Sorry,
So
a bit confused there.
yeah, so if you're happy to walk from one side of the XL to the other, then it's actually less time to walk from the furthest venue to the other in Shrewsbury. So it's actually a very small space in effect compared to some of the huge conventions. But it's got that really nice airy public feel to it, and anyone can come. You know.
Excellent. I think also the strength of a good festival and a good convention is its guests. Obviously, Charlie Adlard is a big headliner. He's a local
Yeah.
lad, so
Yeah.
he was the first person, no doubt, that was on the call list.
Yeah.
Who was the next people to kind of get involved, and was it a case of them spreading the word about this show?
Yeah, I mean, it was really easy to get guests on board because we started so strong. Christian Ward also lives in Shrewsbury, so he talked to his friends. John Wagner lives here, Robbie Morrison, Dan Berry. So all of these guys are part of the festival. They're not just guests; they are actually part of the team, and they've all done a hell of a lot to help us. You know that they are part of the team. And so that was our sort of initial guest list, and then we spoke to a few people. We got Scott McLeod very early. That was really good because Dan actually knows Scott, so that was a nice little in there. Obviously, everybody knows Charlie, and obviously, I hit all my contact list from ICE over the years. 12 years of organising conventions has enabled me to build a huge contact list of creators. So when I said to them, instead of going to a sweaty hall, would you like to go to a beautiful town and sit in a castle, or go in a town square and meet different people that you would never normally meet at a convention? And oh yeah, we're going to give you, there's going to be boat trips and there's beautiful restaurants, and it's like, it's a no-brainer, and we'll put you up as well, and we'll pay your so we looked after our guests, and it was a no-brainer for them, really, I think. And a lot of them were just jumped at the chance to come along, whether that's overseas or UK. And it was really nice to have that really good positive response as well, because a lot of the guests instantly saw what we were doing. They understood what we were trying to do with the festival, and because it is something different, and not every fan will instantly understand what it is we're doing, and the only way to find out is to come along.
Sure. There's a number of headlines or headlining elements to the show. Certainly, from my perspective, because full disclosure, I am going to be a panel host at Comics Salopia, and
Indeed.
there are panels which I'm very excited about being involved in. But from yourself, I mean, what would you say are the headlines for you? What's a couple of the attractions that you're definitely going to try and catch throughout the course of the
Oh
week?
wow, there's quite a few actually. I mean, for me, the biggest thing is having Chip Kidd. I'm just such a massive fan of Chip Kidd, and to get him, to get such a high profile guest at a venue, in Shrewsbury, it's just fantastic. And he's doing a talk for us, and that's the one talk that, out of all the talks, that, because obviously I'll be running around like a nutter all through the festival. There's lots of venues, and we have got volunteers and staff, but it's obviously I'll still be running around. But that's the one thing I do not want to miss. I want to see Chip Kidd speak. And Scott
I am
McLeod, as I've
going to be
already
looking
mentioned as
through
well.
the timetable to make sure that I'm not actually double booked for that.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
although
right.
I suspect I am.
Well, there's been a few reviews of the timetable since I last sent you a timetable, so I'll send you the new one soon, and
If you wouldn't
maybe.
mind, because I didn't know about the 2000 AD one until you announced it. So thanks for that. But I think that's the one of the appeals of a good festival and a good show like this, especially when you've seen the shows that you're modelling on, such as Anglame and such as Lakes, and those shows where you have multiple venues. When you have that kind of ability to put on a wide variety of content, so we do. You're putting on. Like you say, Chip Kidd, you've got an excellent Image Comics panel. Eric Stevenson getting on the plane.
Yeah,
That's quite a draw. I
and
mean,
we've just got Declan Shalvey as well to join us on that one.
oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that he came
I
along quite late on.
I saw a very similar. Well, I saw a panel down at Portsmouth, which kind of based around the artist perspective. of Image Comics. But I think having Eric Stevenson there, it's definitely giving a real sense of what the actual what Image Comics brings to the landscape of comics. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that. Christos
Yeah.
Gage, of course,
Yeah.
which I'm really looking forward to meeting him. Anyone else that kind of jumps out at your
Oh gosh. For me, another one for me is Yannick Paquette, coming over from Canada. I'm a huge fan of his work, and he's a really nice guy as well. It was a pleasure to see him. So, he's doing a Swamp Thing demo with his interview. He's being interviewed, but he's also doing a demo as well. So that'll be really interesting. Um, Eldo Yoshimizu, that's a chap from Japan who's coming out, launching his new book at Comics Salopia. Very excited about that. I discovered him online by chance. You know, when you see a really nice piece of artwork and you just go, "Who's that?" And I just discovered him and just thought, this guy is doing amazing work, not just in comics either. He's just an all-round amazing artist and really interesting guy. So I just contacted him by chance and said, "Look, we're doing this thing in Shrewsbury that you've never heard of in the UK, and this is what we're doing." And he just instantly got back to me and said, "That sounds amazing. That sounds really good. I'd love to be a part of it." And really nice guy as well. And the book that he's bringing out, I think it's pronounced Ryoko, or it could be Ryoko. I'm not sure. Um, but I've seen some pages, and it's just stunning. I mean, I don't read a lot of manga, but for me, this just transcends the whole idea of manga being a house style. Yes, it's a manga, but it's so unique. It really is, and it's so hard boiled. I think that's because Eldo is so influenced by American culture as well, um, the noir type stuff, and the sort of 50s and 60s noir. He's really into all that, so that influences work. So I'm really looking forward to actually picking up the book as well and to meeting Aldo. That'd be great.
For myself, I think there's three elements which I really am excited about seeing at conventions, and just to kind of touch on those and tell me what Comics Salopia is going doing to support those. Number one,
Okay.
it's British creators, uh,
Hmm.
the support of homegrown talent. Um, Obviously, you talked about the 2000 AD zone. You've talked about Charlie Adlard. Any other British talent that you're really excited to see at the show?
Yeah, I mean, for me as well, it's people like Alex Packnadell and um, Corey Brotherson as well. Is launching a book with us, so that's more from the indie scene. And obviously, as you know, I'm a massive sort of indie supporter and indie fan.
That
So
was
to
number
have,
two, by the way. That was the
sorry.
second element. It's these Indian small press.
Yeah. Oh well, I sort of seed into that one then. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm always going to want as much indie stuff at any of my events that I'm involved with because that's my roots. That's where I come from as an indie publisher, then indie distributor. So that's where sort of where my heart always has always laid. So yeah, to have like indie guys launching their books with us at the festival is fantastic. Um, and hopefully we're giving them a platform that it's a massive platform because you're not just locked in a room where only comics fans can see you. You're out there in the public, so anyone can see your work. So that elusive mainstream that are actually more interested in a lot of the indie stuff can actually we're breaking down that barrier. You're not just being exposed to comics fans or movie fans or whatever it is at other conventions. You're being exposed to the general public who are, in my experience, a lot more open to indie books. Whenever I've done a market in a city or anything like that, an open air sort of public event that's free to get in, I've always, as an indie seller, I've always done a lot better at that sort of event than I have at a comic convention. You know, so we're really hoping that the indie guys can really take advantage of that, and it's going to be really good fun as well. There's lots of stuff going on. There's lots of social stuff. We've got the cosplay parade, which is going to be amazing. We've got the zombie walk. So there's going to be lots to see and do.
Okay, so that's one and two: the British talent,
Okay.
the small press, and the indie scene. Number three, and this one really got rammed home at Oldham Comic Con, which I attended last week, because that was a free show which allowed a lot of kids to come through
Mm.
the doors to expose the next generation to the art form that we know and love, and to
Yeah.
get them reading comics. Kids, I'm certain, are a big thing to get them through the door.
Oh yeah, kids and families. I mean, we have a family pass, which is a really good deal, but we also have a kids zone. So the library is totally free to get in. There's Beano artists there, and they're doing free workshops. And we've also got some more sort of slightly older kids, some paid workshops over at the Button and Bear Children's Bookshop, who are one of our sponsors and one of our venues. The castle itself is very much a kids and family zone. So yeah, I mean, for us, it's really important to have the families and kids there, and we've created this area. So, and it's not just kids of a certain age either, because I think sometimes you go, oh yeah, we're going to have kids there, and they all seem to be the same age. We're partnering with Redam Publishing, who are based here in Shrewsbury, who publish Peppa Pig. So we've actually got a presence of the Peppa Pig property at the festival, which is huge, and that's for the really little kids. So we're getting them really early, and there's lots of fun activities which are being led by John Anderson, the Beano editor, who's also coming down from Scotland, and he's also doing some portfolio reviews as well. We've actually been contacted by a parent. I think the guy was 10, and he wanted his portfolio to be reviewed,
Cool.
and we don't usually do portfolio review for that kids that young, but I thought, well, why not? That is, I think back to when I was 10 years old, and if I'd have got a chance to sit down with the editor of the Beano and have my portfolio, when I did have a portfolio when I was 10, you think back and you think, well, kids, they don't take it seriously, but this kid is really driven. So then why not? Like, what a chance to sit down at the age of 10 and have the Beano editor look at your work.
That's damn cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot for kids, not just entertainment, but arts activities and encouragement with reading as well. We're doing a big program with the local libraries, rural libraries program, where publishers are sending us donations of books, all ages books, that we're then donating to the libraries. John Wagner is helping us with that. He's brought in loads of books. Valiant Comics sent us a stack of books I got through the mail the other day. They've been absolutely fantastic. So yeah, it's really, really encouraging that the publishers are actually getting involved as well and sending us their all ages stuff. Because a lot of these libraries, these rural libraries, can't, they just don't access anything really. They very limited access to any to books in general, but like, to get graphic novels, from the latest graphic novels from the latest publishers, they just don't have that stuff. So to actually have them donated, it makes a huge difference. It means that kids in rural areas will be able to access lots of different comics, and that's an ongoing project that we're going to keep running year in, year out. Get those comics and graphic novels into the libraries in the rural areas.
That's pretty cool.
Mm.
Okay, I think we can kind of also touch on the challenges of putting Comics Salopia on.
Mm.
Especially, I mean, I can appreciate that this time of year, the sun's out, it's a glorious period at the moment. We're enjoying a bit of a heat wave, and I'm certain that's going to carry through till June, and that
I hope
really
so.
that'll feed in nicely. I've jinxed it now. Um,
Yeah.
Now sort of that feeds into that whole festival vibe of the city, but that does kind of make the timing mean that you are encroaching into the summer con season, and that makes challenges for yourself to get the talent that you want to appear at the show. How hard has it been to get the people you want to get on
Well,
plate?
as I said earlier, we've had no problem getting guests. That's just been a breeze, to be honest, because the attraction isn't just the event; it's the place. Shrewsbury's a beautiful town. It was recently voted, best place to live in the UK or something, and there's so many attractions here for anyone who's interested in history, because we've got obviously not just the castle, but in this area of Shropshire, there's so much history, from the birth of industry over in Telford to medieval history here in Shrewsbury. So anyone with any interest in history, it's fantastic. There's some beautiful scenery here and countryside. So many places to see. We're so close to so many other places. Anyone traveling over from the States, It's so easy for them to get to different parts of the UK. And if they want to hop over to Paris or something like that after the festival. So there's loads of attractions for guests. And I think it's something different and they know they're going to have a good time. And I think once they've actually attended as well, and they go and talk to their friends, over in the States, hopefully it'll be even easier to recruit people next year. That's the plan anyway.
That's the plan. Okay. We'll quickly talk about the actual nuts and bolts of Comics Salopia in terms of times, because we've got the talks that are taking place throughout the course of the day. But for those people that are coming along for the free elements, what's the times going to be at the various venues? Are we talking a cut-off point at 5, 6 o'clock or something, or is it going a little bit later on into the evening?
Yeah, so what's going to happen is the free festival starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, and that gives access to all of the main venues, so the square, castle, oh, of course, there's Charlie's exhibition over at the museum and art gallery as well, the Walking Dead exhibition, which is an interactive exhibition, which is going to be amazing. That isn't free, but if you've got one of our tickets, one of our joined tickets, the Supervan ticket, it is included in that. Same with the prison. If you get the Superfan ticket, which I think is £35 for the whole day, that gets you into every single daytime event. So you can save yourself, up to sort of 60 quid there, and it'll get you into the prison as well. So all of that opens at 10 o'clock, and that runs until around 5 o'clock on the Saturday and around 4:30 on the Sunday, depending on how things go. If everyone wants to go for their tea at 4 o'clock, we'll let them go for their tea. Um, but we're pretty relaxed about that, and we've got really good agreements with all of the venues. The castle have been fantastic. I just had a meeting with them yesterday, and they bent over backwards to make the venue compatible for what we want to do, which isn't easy because it's a heritage venue. There's lots of limitations there, but we made it work, and it's beautiful. It's so beautiful at the castle. Yeah, so that goes on for the day, and then in the evening there are evening events. Most of those are VIP events, but there are little events, like fringe events, happening as well. There's film screenings at the Hive, which is an arts centre just on the edge of town, about a 5-minute walk from the square. So they're doing a film screening of a Norwegian, I think it's a Czech movie, that's right, an animated movie, and they're also doing a local vampire movie as well, made by somebody actually in Shrewsbury. Apparently it's a very good film, starring Neil Morrissey. And then we've got the Dread screening on the Sunday, which is like the end of the festival, and that's with John Wagner, and that's in the prison, in the exercise yard of the prison. So that's a fantastic venue to watch the Dread movie. It really, I love those sort of screenings. I went to see Dog Soldiers in Hormond Hill in the woods last year. The same guy who's doing the screening for us of Dread, he did that, and that was genuinely quite scary, actually, watching Dog Soldiers in the middle of the woods. So yeah, like Dread in the prison is just, yeah, it's great. And then on the Saturday night, we've got local pop star Dan Owen doing a concert at the Butter Market, which is it's the local nightclub. It's a really nice swish sort of venue, and that's going to be where our Saturday night VIP event is going to be held, with all the guests, obviously, so you can rub shoulders with the guests, live music, and all that sort of stuff. Lots of stuff going on that evening. That's going to be a really cool event, and that's I think that you can do it for £20 if you just want to do the music, but if you want to go upstairs and hang out with all the guests, it's 50 quid. So it's a big ticket, but we think it's really good value for what you're getting. And on the Friday night, we do actually have a launch party as well for those who are sort of coming in on the Friday night and want to sort of schmooze with the guests beforehand. We're going to be playing Cosmic Rays, the band I'm in with Charlie. So you get to see us play, and it's not as bad as you might think. We're actually pretty good.
I will jump in here and say that Cosmic Rays are a very good band indeed. So, yeah.
Cheers, Len. And the checks in the mail.
But other than that, they're fine. It sounds like it's going to be a really packed lineup throughout the course of the whole weekend, which is great. What's your plans for comics? what's it? Well, what are your plans for Comics Salopia moving forward? Are you kind of really focusing on this one and just making sure this one is sealed and with a bow, or are you looking to 2020 down the line?
Well, we sort of have to look at 2020 a little bit because it takes that long to organise everything. So I've already put a few feelers out there for guests, already already firming up relationships with venues and the council and all that sort of thing, because I want to make sure that we're not like pressed for time if we do it next year. So I have put some things in place with Jane, my business partner, and Sarah, our finance director, because we are a team. There's not just me, which is great and which is essential because I couldn't do all this on my own. A lot of this could not have happened without Jane, who was a councillor and was the mayor at the time, and who has all these connections locally. Also, our finance director Sarah is an absolute godsend. She's so organised. She organises so many things that I don't even think of. We've got a bunch of volunteers as well. All the usual guys that help with ice are also helping with this one. And of course, Charlie. Charlie and his wife Lynette have been absolutely fantastic. They've not just sort of said, we're the figureheads. They've actually got involved. I think Charlie wanted to just be the figurehead. I don't think he wanted to get so involved, but we sort of dragged him in, But he's been fantastic, and so's Lynette. That they're good people. They really are. So next year, I can't tell you who the people are that I'm talking to, but one of them is one of the biggest names in modern comics. That's the only clue I'll give you. Say modern comics.
We'll
It's
leave
not
it.
like an old legend.
We'll leave it there then. We'll leave it right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And also, well, just then to wrap up the coverage on Comics Salopia, best place for people to find out details and also get tickets, it's comicsalopia.com, I believe.
Yeah, it's that simple. comicsalopia.com with both S's. And we're also on Twitter, which I think is C Salopia, and on Instagram, and of course on Facebook. You can buy tickets via the Facebook events that are on there. There are still a couple more events to be put on. There's that many. I'm still putting events onto the website, which is what I really should be doing tonight instead of talking to you, but there you go.
This is where I get blamed for everything.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say go onto the website, check out all the events, because there are a lot, and there's something for everyone. There really is. Whether you're a hardcore comics fan, whether you're somebody who wants to learn about making comics, or whether you want to do some drawing, whether you want to draw zombies. That's a really cool one. We're doing some zombie life drawing. So it's not just life drawing as you know it, it's life drawing with zombies. So we called it on life drawing.
This is where you need bodies, models that are thin and emaciated. So I'm completely out of particular graphic, so I think I'm safe on that one. We do have a couple of comments that are coming in on the chat box. Into the Blue Mister saying, just Google the details. It's actually not that far from me. This is totally doable. It's a great guest. Really looking forward to it. So
excellent.
People who are really excited about this show. So I'm very much looking forward to this. 1st and 2nd of June. It's going to be a very packed weekend, and looking forward to it. We did touch briefly on the other shows that you run throughout the course of the year. Just to quickly talk about those ICE shows throughout the course of 2019. Obviously, all your attention is a little bit focused on Comics Salopia at the moment, but those shows are also barreling down the pipe. What have you got planned for those?
Yeah, so ICE at the moment, we've got ICE in Birmingham, which is in August. Yes, seems like a long way off, but it's not. We've got the usual sort of guys for that one. Do you know I haven't actually confirmed an overseas guest for it yet, and I'm not allowed to tell anybody who I'm talking to. So I can't actually tell you much about ICE at the moment, except that it will be as great as it always is. We've got a new venue, which is the I can't even remember what it's called now. It's at Edgbaston. Yeah. So there's been shows there before. Steve ran some. Steve from Time Bomb ran a show there, which was pretty successful, if I remember correctly. We're using it a little bit differently. With the layout's going to be a little bit different, but I think it's going to be a great show, and I'm really looking forward to being able to tell people more about it as the news comes out.
Cool. Excellent stuff. Looking forward to finding out about those shows. But like you would say, a lot of the attention is all on Comics Salopia, which is only a couple of weeks away now.
Yeah.
No stress, no pressure. We'll let you get off and enjoy the rest of your evening and get the final crossing of the T's and the dotting of the I's on that show. Really looking forward to it. Like I say, I'm going to be there throughout the course of the weekend, hosting a number of the panels, including that Christos Gage conversation, and also the panel of Image Comics, which sounds like it's growing every. So no doubt we'll have a whole run of image creators on that stage by the time that it all rolls around.
It could well be. It could well be.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Shane, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Likewise.
Indeed. Yeah, if you've enjoyed this show, if you've enjoyed Talking Con, this has been an incidental episode. We are live every Sunday between 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. GMT. This week we are going to be having Mark Serby join us, who's going to be talking Game of Thrones and its impact on the landscape of conventions, with shows like Walker Stalker and other events that have taken place, not just here in the UK, but abroad. And we are hopefully going to be speaking to a certain organiser of Wales Comic Con, who's going to be coming on to talk about his kind of new show, or at least the new venue that's been planned for Wales Comic Con. That's Jamie Milner, who hopefully will be joining us, but that's to be confirmed in the next couple of days. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Shane, once again, thank you very much indeed for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Comics Salopia, and looking forward to that. We will be trying on the Convention Collective to bring as much as we can from that show. So we'll be recording panels, taking lots of photos, and hopefully taking lots of interviews as well throughout the course of the weekend. It's going to be a packed show. Once again, comicsalopia.com. See Salopia on Twitter and on Instagram as well. Find out more about the show, and hopefully we'll see you in Shrewsbury in a couple of weeks' time. From myself, Leonard Sultana, and from Shane Chebsey, we'll see you soon. Take care.
Bye.